Hey everybody, it's ScomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'm going to be playing another Brothers War Premier Draft. Without further ado, let's scoop up our incredibly powerful Mythic Rare, shall we? Gix Yawgmoth Praetor is a 3-mana 3/3, and whenever any creature you control deals combat damage to your opponent, you get to pay a life and draw a card. So if you hit your opponent with 3 creatures, you can pay 3 life and draw 3 cards. That's already completely absurd, but there's also a 7-mana ability stacked on that can allow you to cast a bunch of stuff from your opponent's library for free, as long as you discard a bunch of cards. So Gix is a Mega Bomb. That's a pack one, pick one out of any pack, and we're going to scoop it up. A little unfortunate to get it in such a powerful pack, as we also have a Hero of the Dunes here as a very premium uncommon in my opinion. This card's just absurd. 5 mana for a 3/2, it returns any artifact or creature mana value 3 or less from your grave to the battlefield, and gives all of your creatures mana value 3 or less +1/+0. Ridiculous in a black-white aggro deck. And Ramos Dragon Engine is nothing to scoff at either, just a gigantic flyer that you can put into any deck. But Gix Yawgmoth Praetor, easily the strongest card in that pack. For pick 2 here, the only black card to follow it up with is a Ravenous Gigamole, which is fine, but it's a little bit filler. It's like a good filler card, but still nothing super exciting for a pick 2, so we're probably not going to roll with that. Removal has been really important in this format. Unfortunately, the whole Powerstone into really expensive stuff dream hasn't really lived up to what we'd hoped it'd be. It is a relatively aggressive format still, so you want a pretty efficient curve of creatures and a bunch of removal spells. And for that reasoning, I think Prison Sentence is one of the best cards in this pack. 3 mana for an aura that can shut off a creature's ability to attack, block, and use its abilities. And it can also scry 2 when it hits the board, so Prison Sentence, just a very efficient removal spell. We're going to scoop it up there. And you may have noticed in the background, I would like to apologize. The heater is going to be going off and on, so there's going to be definitely some static at times when I'm speaking. That's just a fact of life during winter with my recording setup, so apologies about that, but hopefully it'll be a little bit better now and then as the heater turns off on occasion. So pack 1, pick 3 here. We're definitely not married to black-white, and both of these uncommons are really good. There's the black-red Sacrifice uncommon, the Junkyard Genius, or the blue-black draw 2 common, the Evangel of Synthesis. Both are very powerful cards, both are relatively aggressive as well. They both just head into different directions, different archetypes. I find that black-red is a really good archetype. I think the aggressive red stuff in this format just plays really, really well. We also want to have as many cheap creatures as possible with Gix to get as much value as possible. So I think black-red probably works a little bit better with Gix than blue-black, but both are great archetypes to be in. I'm going to try to go for the red-black with the Junkyard Genius here, and really unfortunate choice there because obviously I can't see the future, but if I could, I would have went for blue-black, because now we're getting past another Evangel of Synthesis and an Urza's Command to choose from. So that's pretty devastating here, especially seeing that the red card here is not that great, Falaji Chain Dancer, although Scrapwork Mutt has put in a lot of work. Just a really cheap creature, discard a card, draw a card, so you can trigger any of your draw 2 cards. You can discard cards with Unearth for good value. Scrapwork Mutt has just been a huge overperformer so far, so we could still roll with that in the red-black direction. Might be a little better to be open to heading in the blue direction though, because 3 people passed both of these cards, so blue is potentially quite open. I actually don't know which is better. I think Evangel's really, really efficient, but Urza's Command's really cool. I'm going to go for the Evangel though. See what happens now. So we see a Scrapwork Mutt again, which is quite nice. Dragon Engine is fine. Hasn't been as good as I'd hoped it would be because, again, the format has been way faster than I expected, and it's pretty much a very, very rare occasion that you're actually going to play the 8-mana version of this card, and dumping mana into just getting 1 additional power is also quite expensive. Based on the going rate of most stuff in the format. Gixian Infiltrator is just okay if you have like a lot of sacrifice, so I'm not super into that. I think I'm going to go with Scrapwork Rager. The only color that I'm 100% convinced that I'll be is black, And this is a card that fits fine into the black-red sacrifice deck and really well in the blue-black draw 2 deck. So we'll take that card. Nice little way to hedge our bets on that pick. Pick 6, we have a Mishra's Juggernaut, which is an okay finisher for the red-black deck. 5/3 trample, and it can unearth to come back 1 time. That's about it here. There's an Elsewhere Flask, which is fun. It synergizes with the cycle of uncommons that care about what basic land types you have out. Clay Revenant's okay, but really slow. Yeah, I'm just going to go for Mishra's Juggernaut. Alright. Sardian Cliff Stomper. If we can get pretty heavy into red, this can be quite the powerful card. Obviously, it's at its best in mono red. That's where it's really ideal, but if we can start picking up some of those Elsewhere Flasks, if we see some more, we can set up a really big attack with this card, even in a 2-color deck. I'm going to take it here a little speculative. There's a Sibling Rivalry that's also very good for the red-black deck. Probably the second best card here. Maybe it's better than Cliff Stomper, but I like going for the spice and seeing if it pans out. That might be to my detriment, though. Iron Claw Crusher, I think, is the strongest card in the pack, but it's in green, the only color we haven't even dabbled in. Gix's Caress is solid when you have uses for the Powerstone, because just looking through your opponent's hand, ripping out a card from their hand of your choice is actually pretty decent, especially in this format because it's kind of bomb heavy. So I'm going to take the Gix's Caress. Now, another Juggernaut, a War Plow. Probably War Plow's #1 fan, so probably just roll with that card. I probably overrated a bit, but just have been a big fan of being able to get a Death Toucher out on turn 2 when I need it, and when I don't need it, just being able to hold this card and cast it as a moderately sized threat late in the game. Just like the prototype ability on it a lot. Really don't like Mishra's Onslaught. I've been incredibly unimpressed with this. I played it in one really aggressive deck and it just did nothing. It's just not a good deal for the mana cost. Too much mana for too little effect. Military Discipline I have played once, and it was actually kind of devastating. You know, plus and plus 0 first strike, so you win a combat with it, then you get a permanent buff with it later. But again, we're not in white. I guess I'd take the Aeronaut's Wings, actually, instead of the Arms Race, because there's no way I'm going to play this card. I was just taking the highest rarity card for Vault Progress there. Gixian Skullflare's filler. It's fine filler. Sibling Rivalry can be pretty good if we get some cheap ways to sacrifice stuff, so we'll roll with that here, see if we can get more cards like Junkyard Genius. Try to sacrifice our opponent's cards. Take a Chain Dancer that I won't be playing. Conscripted Infantry or Infiltrator. Again, I'm really low on sacrifice stuff. Not very impressed by Infiltrator for that, so I'll just take the Infantry. 3/1 that trades off and then leaves you with a 1/1, so it's fine. Really don't like the Ashnod's Intervention, but I don't think Scrapsmith is very good either. And it's just a bunch of filler stuff in the end of the pack, as you would expect. Pack 2, pick 1. Not a lot going on here. The rare is really bad. The mythic is really fun, but also pretty slow. If you do get to the point where you have a lot of mana, though, this can take over the game, but it doesn't really feel like something that our deck is going to try to do. We are pretty aggressive. There's a Scrapwork Mutt, which is always a great filler card. We don't have a single Mutt yet. They've all dried up, so I think I'm actually going to take that, because I do want a few of these in this deck. But Moment of Defiance is probably the second best choice. This is just a pretty good combat trick for any deck that's rapidly or frequently getting into combat. +2/+1 lifelink and draw a card can definitely swing a game. But I'm going to take the Scrapwork Mutt. Obliterating Bolt is incredibly efficient removal. 1 and a red to deal 4 to a creature planeswalker and exile it if it dies. Overwhelming Remorse is also incredibly efficient. Instant speed, just straight up exile a creature planeswalker. 5 mana maximum, 1 mana minimum if you have a ton of creatures in grave. I think I go Overwhelming Remorse over Obliterating Bolt. It's really, really close. But we are heavier into black than red, so that is part of it. And then instant speed is pretty huge. I'll go for Overwhelming Remorse here. I guess we do have the Sardine Cliff Stomper, so we do want to be heavier in red than I am right now, but I'd have to put some really filler stuff in here. Definitely looking for more 2-drop creatures. Alright, what do we have here? Bitter Reunion has been playing pretty fine in the format. Unearth is a pretty great mechanic where you can bring your creature back for value. So with cards like Bitter Reunion, where you discard a card to draw some cards, they're a little better than usual because you can discard an Unearth card. That being said, Mutt is in the same pack as the Bitter Reunion, and it's kind of a slightly better version of that card. Instead of discard 1, draw 2, it's discard 1, draw 1, but get a 2/1 on the board, so that's kind of your second card worth of value. And then this one can unearth later. So I'm going to go Scrapwork Mutt over the Bitter Reunion, but I think that card is solid as well. Mishra's Juggernaut also fine. Nothing super good off color. Best card's probably Epic Confrontation. So, not unhappy to be red-black right now. Okay, now I'm a little unhappy. Static Net is easily the best card in the pack. An Oblivion Ring or Banishing Light style removal spell that also gains life. But Peregrine Strongbow, very good role filler for the Rakdos Sacrifice deck. Makes our sibling rivalry much better and more consistent. Let's take the Strongbow. Rock Hunter is fine because we're just trying to get super aggressive, so a 3-power creature for only 2 mana, let's go. Yeah, Disciples of Gix is a lot of fun. It's a little bit slow, but I did run a deck with 3 Disciples of Gix because I had, you know, like 4 Unearth cards, and I did enjoy it a lot there, and we do have 3 or 4 Unearth cards already. But 6 mana, 4 for a little bit of hard sell. Maybe I do take it over Rock Hunter, though. That's a pretty filler 2 mana card. But I only have 3 of those right now, and I need a lot more 2-drops than 6-drops. You know, I'm going to go Disciples of Gix here. I do enjoy that card. Pack 2, pick 6. I guess we take a Pyrrhic Blast here. Theoretically, it works with the Sacrifice deck, but we're trying to sacrifice like small stuff. I don't know. And that's a very expensive way to sacrifice something. I just don't think Fateful Handoff is good at all. You draw cards equal to the mana value of something you control, but then you give it to your opponent, which is really funny, but probably not very good. Another Scrapsmith or an Energy Refractor. Not a big fan of the Scrapsmith. You need a really, really high artifact count to consistently draw off of it, and if you don't draw off of this, if you mill 3 non-artifact cards, it's just a 3/2 body for 3 with no abilities, which is pretty bad, so I'm just going to grab Energy Refractor. Another Energy Refractor or Tumultual Scrapsmith, I'll just make that same decision. Gixian Infiltrator now. Best card in there was definitely the Gaia's Gift. That has been a thorn in my backside against every green deck. You can see it in a lot of the drafts lately. When I'm just playing against a green deck, anytime somebody casts a Gaia's Gift on me, it is just a blowout. It's like, oh, great. Alright, well, I don't really want 3 Energy Refractors, so we'll take this Bitter Reunion. How's our creature count looking? 15? We're doing pretty well here. Almost just have a full deck that's exactly the kind of creature to non-creature count that we want. 15 to 17 creatures for a deck this aggressive. Yeah, kind of just have a deck, and then pack 3 we can spend just making it better. That is where I like to be. These are both very bad cards. Best card in the pack is probably Archaeologist, maybe Pallbearer. We can't really play any of those. Don't really like auras unless they draw you a card when you play them, so I'm just going to take this Raise to the Ground. There are a lot of artifacts in the format. You can definitely main deck 1 Raise to the Ground. It's never like perfectly ideal, but it's a possibility. Wrapping up pack 2 now. We're going to get two random cards here. And then move on to pack 3, pick 1. Can we open up a sweet rare? There are a lot in the format. We open up an okay rare. I don't actually know if this is better than our first copy of Excavation Explosion. We're pretty low on removal, and this format removal is really important. This is just 3 mana, 3 damage to any target. Pretty great deal. I'm probably going to go Explosion here, but Thran Spider is fun. Our deck also doesn't have a ton to do with the Power Stone in terms of getting mana out of it. I guess we can sacrifice it, which is nice. But yeah, 3 mana, 2/4 reach. Each player gets a tapped Power Stone. It's a very good deal. It's a very cheap 2/4 reach. You know, I'm actually going to go with the Spider. It's a lot of stat line for such a cheap card, mana-wise. And we do have enough artifacts in our deck that if we get to the 7 mana ability, we do draw a card off of that now and then. Precursor Golem is easily the pick here. Precursor Golem is very much a removal check kind of card. It's 5 mana for 3 3/3s, which is absolutely absurd. However, when one of those is targeted with an instant or sorcery, it targets all of them. So if your opponent does have the instant or sorcery removal for the golem, they kill all 3 of them. But if they don't, this is going to end the game real quick. 9 power and toughness for 5 mana. A pretty devastatingly good deal. Now I'll take a Disfigure here over a Rock Hunter, but that's also an option for an aggressive deck like ours. Infantry's fine, Clay Revenant is fine. Just some fine stuff. Again, I don't really want to be doing dirtily late game like recursion sort of sacrifice stuff, so I'm just going to take an infantry. Although I have a lot of 3 mana creatures, don't I? I do. I have a lot of them, and I don't think an infantry is making the cut there. Probably won't play it, but I definitely won't play anything else in the pack, so I'll take a Clay Revenant. Alright, Unleash Shell, another great removal spell. 5 mana for 5 damage to a creature planeswalker and 2 to the controller, so it's a good aggro removal spell as well. We also have a Scrapwork Mutt here. Another one of these would be super solid. Lets me cut the Sardian Cliff Stomper, because that's probably not going to make it here. Actually, kind of a hard choice between those two. They're both great for us. Still feel low on removal. Yeah, I'm going to take the Unleash Shell. Monastery Swiftspear, super good aggro card here. 1 mana, 1/2 haste prowess. Just gets in there, gets that damage in super quick. This pack is poop for us. The best card is Scrapwork Cohort in white. A lot of soldier synergies and just going wide. Getting multiple creatures on board is very good. Let's just draft for Vault Progress, get the highest rarity card. I don't think I'm playing Clay Rev or Cliff Stomper. Don't need the refractors that badly. They're fine artifacts to sacrifice. Probably not playing Raise to the Ground or Chain Dancer or Pyrrhic Blast. Puts me at 22 cards, though I need to put something back in. I guess I'll put the Clay Rev back in for now. This is our 23 card deck. Just kind of doing a little bit of deck building here as I wait. This is a good ratio, right? Yeah, 17 creatures, 6 non-creatures. That's perfect. That's a deck right there. Well, there's the deck building for you. I want a one-of heavyweight demolisher. This just feels way too expensive. Does end a game, theoretically, but every time I've cast this, it's been pretty bad. I've never resolved this and had it actually do what I wanted to do and like end the game against my opponent. I've always like resolved it and then died. But that could just be my problem. Self-explanatory picks at the end here. I already cut 1 Raise to the Ground. I'm not going to play another one, so we'll take the Gix's Crest over that. Although I probably cut one of these. Chromatic Star is interesting. It's a good sacrifice option. Probably keep it in here. This is all poop. Take some wings. We might probably go 16 lands here and run it like this. Rock Hunter Wield, that's awesome. I'm into that. Can play a 2 mana 3/1 in this deck. Play the rock over the... Yeah, keep it at 17 creatures. Play the rock over the Clay Revenant. Alright. We've got a deck here for a 16 land red-black aggro deck. A little bit of bombs. We have a Precursor Golem and a Gix. That feels pretty good. That's definitely what you want in the format. Some Rakdos shenanigans. Teeny bit of removal. Overwhelming Remorse, Unleash Shell, and Disfigure. Gix's Crest sort of works as removal because we pull a card out of our opponent's hand. If I want to cut anything here, could be the Infantry or one of these Acrobats. The number of Unearth cards. 3, 4. And I'm pretty sure the last time I played the Disciples of Gix was in a deck that literally had 4 Unearth cards as well. And it actually did some stuff there, so... might be a bad idea, but I'm going to leave it in. But since I am leaving it in, that means we have 2 5-mana plays. The Unearth ability costs 6 here. Disciples cost 6. Got a 7-mana mana sink over here. Actually could reasonably be a 17-land deck, even though we are aggro. Kind of meet in the middle here, cut a Kill Zone Acrobat, keep an Infantry, and call it a deck. Here we have a look at the deck that we're going to be playing today. It is a black-red aggro deck. We've got some Sacrifice synergies. We've got just a pretty aggressive curve here, and it looks like a pretty powerhouse deck. So a bunch of aggressive cheap creatures like Monastery Swiftspear, Infiltrator, some Scrapwork Mutts, Rock Hunter, a bunch of nice creatures to play turn 1, turn 2 to get in, get aggressive. Those are ideally getting us a lot of value if we luck out and draw Gix, Yawgmoth, Praetor, because then we just have a ton of creatures on board really early game, start slamming our opponent's face and drawing cards as we do so. If not, we can just do a regular aggro game where we're just trying to do a bunch of damage to our opponent, keeping that board clear with some efficient removal, Disfigure, Sibling Rivalry to steal their thing and then sacrifice it with some of our sack outlets, Overwhelming Remorse, and Unleash Shell there. We have the Sacrifice synergy cards like Junkyard Genius and Paragon Strongbull. And yeah, looks like just a really aggressive curve, some removal to follow it up, to try to keep the pressure on our opponent's life total, kill them really fast. If that doesn't work out, we've got a couple bombs, Precursor Golem, to just put a bunch of golems all over the board, or Gix, to just overwhelm our opponent in card advantage. So, pretty straightforward strategy today, beating some face, just getting aggro, but we'll see how it plays out as we head into game 1. Here we are in game 1 with, unfortunately, kind of an awkward keep. No creatures in the hand turn 1, turn 2. Or turn 3, honestly. We don't do anything till turn 3 Gix's Caress. I don't really want to mulligan. Mulliganing is so painful and limited, going down a card. We are on the draw, though, and again, this hand doesn't really do anything till turn 3, and even then it doesn't affect the board, which is kind of a big downside. I'm going to take the mulligan here, but I'm not particularly happy about it. We'll keep this hand, get rid of the Chromatic Star, and I've got some good creatures. I have the Scrapwork Mutt. If I flood out, I can discard a land, draw a card. Now we actually have an aggressive start here, 2 mana 3/1, and the 3 mana synergy piece of Junkyard Genius. Our opponent is on green-white with a turn 2 Mine Worker. It's a 2/1 that is going to gain them life every turn. If they manage to assemble all the workers, the Mine Worker, Power Plant Worker, and Tower Worker, they get to start gaining 3 life. 2 Mine Workers does not trigger the ability, but they do have them. And that is going to be annoying for our Rock Hunter, because I don't really want to make that trade. Good. Slam down a Junkyard Genius here, get a Powerstone. Next turn we'll have 5 mana for artifacts, so we're only 1 turn away from casting a 5/4 Death Touch, which could be pretty good here. They'd have to block with both of the Mine Workers to get it dead, get it killed. Sigil of Valor, not particularly worried about that. because this doesn't do anything unless my opponent is attacking, and if they're attacking us, that means less blockers they have up. So yeah, we can play the Goring Warplow as a 5/4 next turn. I think I'm going to play the Scrapwork Mutt, but I'm not going to discard a card because I need to guarantee I have this land still to play the Warplow. But this will give me something that I'm perfectly happy to trade with one of the mine workers if they want to equip and try to hit as hard as possible. Although I honestly might just be taking the damage right now. So our opponent is stuck on 2 lands. They kept Greedy Keep here. It's not paying out for them so far, but they're not really under any pressure because even though they did keep a 2-lander, they kept a 2-lander with a couple 2-drops, which is fair enough. That means that they were going to have action no matter what they drew. They are going to throw the Sigil onto the Mine Worker. And then pass the turn. Alright, still stuck on mana over there. We flooded a tiny bit here. Maybe I should have discarded that land. Obviously I don't know the future though, and having a guaranteed 5/4 this turn felt pretty good to me. I'm definitely willing to trade the Mutt into one of these. Much rather do that on attacks than on blocks. Cool, looks like we're just going to get some damage in. And now I'll play the Warplow. And we are not going to play this mountain next turn unless I draw another land, because I'd like to keep it in hand in a deck with multiple Scrapwork Mutts and the other discard spell to use to draw some more cards when we need them. Argothian Opportunist. This is unfortunate for us. They have hit the 3rd land drop and now they are ramping. Argothian Opportunist coming with a Powerstone token. Help cast their artifacts. Well, that's pretty good news for us. I would say Precursor Golem is exceptionally good news here. We can start cashing in some of our artifacts to this Junkyard Genius pretty soon. That could be very devastating. The Junkyard Genius, of course, for 3 mana. We get to sacrifice a creature or artifact, and then make all of our creatures have +1/+0 and Menace till end of turn, which, when you've got 7 creatures on board, kind of a lot of damage. So again, Menace would mean that our opponent can't block unless they block with 2 creatures per attacker. So with 4 creatures total, they can block 2 of our creatures. So they go block, block, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Just like straight dead. Oh no, they gain 2 life. Maybe not quite dead, but probably dead. The Genius unfortunately doesn't give itself Menace. If it gave itself Menace, then they would definitely be dead. I think they're still close enough to dead that I'm supposed to just do it. We'll definitely play the Infiltrator first, though, because that will allow me to get a +1/+1 counter on it here when I do this. Holding up a black mana, because if enough creatures die here, I can cast this for 1 mana during my opponent's turn. Probably should play this land at this point, honestly. Wait, this gives haste? Oh my god, Junkyard Genius gives haste? That's disgusting. They're definitely dead then. I was only playing the Infiltrator pre-combat so it'd get a +1/+1 counter, but it gets haste too? What a absolutely disgusting card. Of course, aided very heavily by the Precursor Golem, giving us 3 creatures off of 1 card a turn earlier. Nasty, nasty stuff there. Gotta feel pretty bad for our opponent there. Just didn't draw a lot of lands and then kind of just bombed out in the end. So 1-0 to start it off. Here we are on the play in game 2. Definite keep this time. Monastery Swift Spear turn 1 to start getting that damage in. Chromatic Star turn 2 to get another point of damage in. And the Chromatic Star, really fun synergy with Junkyard Genius. we can sacrifice that to the Genius to buff the board and draw a card when we sack it. Opponent is on green-black. I'm not a huge fan of that. That color pair can grind out really well. There's a lot of creatures potentially that can get lifelink or gain some life when they enter the battlefield. That's the kind of stuff I'm really worried about here. They also have some efficient removal in black, of course. So nothing from our opponent so far still. I'm going to discard this land, maybe. I do have a 6-drop in hand. It's not the craziest one. I probably just play the Mutts and sack the star here to give it haste, and I just don't discard a card. I mean, I could discard this Disciples. Seems reasonable. I need to draw 2 more lands to get there. I am running 17 though, and I'm about to draw a card. Not super certain about that choice there, but I'm going to sack the Chromatic Star to draw instead of sacking the Powerstone. We did hit a land, so pretty happy about that choice. Opponent is down to 9 before they play a creature. They're going to play a Ravenous Gigamole. Ooh, they milled that Spider is so good. Spider's really good. Unleash Shell also very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I put them to 1 life. So my best play. What happens if I use Junkyard Genius? 3 mana to use that. Pop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They block there. Yeah, no, I just shoot that thing and put them to 1. And now they don't have a way to use the Spider unless they play another creature. So the Skyfisher Spider is just when it enters the battlefield, sack another creature to destroy any non-land permanent. Obviously, if they don't have another creature, they can't do that though, so just another quick victory from the Rakdos aggro deck there. Opponent could not commit anything that affected the board to the board in the early game. And so the aggro deck got there. Definitely pretty stern lesson in this format, if you could tell from the first Premier Draft we did, the blue-white 7-0 deck, and then now this deck. 100% not a format where, as we'd hoped, you could just kind of sit on your butt and durdle a little and then just play some really big stuff in the late game. If you're going to be playing big stuff in the late game, you can definitely do that, but every single deck needs to have some way to affect the board in the early game. My most successful deck that I actually got to cast a 10 mana 10/10 with was because it was in a deck that had like 6 2-drop creatures and 5 3-drop creatures, but those creatures all helped me get a little bit of mana. Like, it's a pretty rough format if you're not playing creatures in the early game. So it does feel pretty high variance because of that. You can just draw hands that don't have early game creatures, and if you're against the aggro, it's not going to go well. Tempted to just hold up Disfigure here, but if they have a really, really good 2-drop that I need to immediately kill, I can just not play the Mutt. Alright, we are going to play the Mutt, and we are not going to discard any of these wonderful cards, although I could discard the Rager. I'm pretty happy with that. Scatter Ray. Always feels good when a removal spell or a counter spell hits one of your Unearth cards, because you're still going to get value off of it. This is a pretty easy disfigured target, and I kind of want to do it while they're tapped out. That being said, they're likely to be tapped out in the future, and I'd take the turn off of playing anything here unless I just unearth the Mutt. I think I want to play the Acrobat. Acrobat sets up for a really good sibling rivalry play where we can steal anything and then kill it with the Acrobat. We don't get to damage our opponent with whatever we've stolen, because the Acrobat will sacrifice whatever we steal on the attack trigger before damage is dealt, but it's still a really good synergy. Now is when our opponent is going to play like a Take Flight or something and make that a flying double striker that draws them cards, and that's when I'm going to regret not having just immediately disfigured it. Interesting. Oh, I wish I had one more land here. If I could Gix's Caress while still holding up Disfigure, that would very easily be the play. feel like I'm still just gonna do it here. And that's gonna let me use the Powerstone to get a mana out of Chromatic Star at a later time. Like, really puts me up a mana. They might have to counterspell this Gix's Caress if they have a counterspell and something else in their hand that they like more. No, they're gonna play a Zephyr Sentinel. 2/1 flyer. They can bounce the Combat Thresher if they want to attempt to recast it and draw another card off of it later. Actually a really good deal for them. That actually makes it just kind of devastating we didn't have the extra mana there. If we did, we could have gotten an absolute blowout. I'm just figuring that. But I mean, I guess their hand is just 2 removal spells. I could just make them discard the Thresher now. That's actually kind of funny. Now that I think of it, just because it's rude, I'm just going to make them discard that, I suppose. If I run in the Acrobat, it dies to their post. Yeah, if they didn't have the mana up for riposte right now, I might do that. At least get a few damage in, but because we have the sibling rivalry in hand, I don't think we want to send the Acrobat in. Oof, we are really looking for lands. Got a bunch of mediocre removal and a 2/1. I think I can play this game out pretty long here. It's not, I mean, they have a good removal spell and a medium removal spell. I don't mean mediocre as in like, oh, their deck is bad, it's all bad cards. I'm just trying to like think of what they have there. When I say mediocre removal, I mean mediocre that does not hit anything. It's removal that is limited in some way. Like this only hits tapped things and only does 3 damage. I'm just trying to assess how important it is to play this game quickly or play the long game here. And we can pretty easily play the long game because we're going to play creatures that just can't get affected by that Deadly Riposte eventually. And for now we can just play creatures like Rager that we're very okay with trading into it. And now that I have Strongbow, I'm a little more okay with letting Acrobat die, but Acrobat can sacrifice any creature. Strongbow can only sack artifacts, so I think I'm still holding the Acrobat back. Alright, and now I have the mana to disfigure and play a creature here, which feels very good. You know, they still don't really have anything I want to sack to the Acrobat, but I'm playing the very long game with this card. So we drop the Strongbow. They only have 1 card we don't know about. I'm just going to disfigure before they draw here. Less opportunities to draw into a Lauren's Escape or something. The card that gives hexproof for 1 mana. Any tricks like that. But yeah, it feels like we're not under that much pressure. Now we're doing more damage to our opponent than they're doing to us. They are going to have to start throwing removal at these weak creatures. And then any bigger creatures we play later, we'll just have free reign. I like our position here a decent amount. I can even cast a Disciples of Gix now off this Powerstone Chromatic Star combo. I think that's the play this turn. I'm going to attack with everybody. This might be incorrect, because I am still desperately trying to hold on to the Acrobat, but I feel like my opponent's threat assessment is going to be to kill the Strongbow later. I guess the problem with doing this is that I can sacrifice something to save the Strongbow right now. So they know since I can save the Strongbow, they might as well kill the Acrobat instead. Yeah, that was not right if I was desperate to hold on to Acrobat. Excuse me, I think the play probably should have been to actually just main phase the Disciples. So my opponent knows that I can't sacrifice anything to the Strongbow, and then they might have killed the Strongbow instead of the other one. Alright, subjugate the Disciples. We are heavily winning the race. They've only got 1 card in hand now. 3rd passive on. That's kind of need to kill, and I don't have a way to sack it with these sibling rivalries, so I guess I kind of have to use my premium removal on it. Otherwise it draws them 2 cards every turn and pretty quickly wins the game. Alright, attack for 1,000,000 pass. Next turn we have lethal on board in many ways. Alright, still well over lethal here, especially if they declare an attack. Let's go. Actually, don't even need to cast this to have lethal here with Strong Bowl with the Mutts engrave. It makes it quicker, and we will be 3-0 now. Here we are now in game 4, unfortunately on the draw. Don't love this hand, but it is definitely not bad enough to mulligan away here. Just don't love that I don't have any hard removal in the hand mainly. Like, we got a couple early game threats, which is fine, but then nothing that's just straight up destroy whatever I need. But that is one of the things that I think is a little weaker in this deck than most. I don't think our removal is incredible. I'm going to prototype this Warplow out, because on turn 6 I'm definitely casting Disciples. So we'll just curve out for now. Opponent is mono red so far. That is definitely a strategy in the format. If red is open enough in your draft pod to go all in on it. Don't really know if it's worth just getting 1 damage in here. I mean, they crack back pretty well if I don't have a Death Toucher untapped here, because with those creatures having prowess, can't really make any blocks. And we've got a sibling rivalry now, but they don't have any artifacts that I can sacrifice to the Strong Bowl, so we're just on pass turn again. While we play this Juggernaut, have this start cracking through their board state a little bit. Alright, opponent is stuck on 3 mana, but that's not a horrible place to be in a red deck. Real tempted to play the Precursor Golem. However, against the red deck, I think just play Juggernaut first. And if that doesn't draw a removal spell, I can probably expect to actually resolve a Precursor Golem. But they could very well have had like an Excavation Explosion in hand or something that they just don't want to use yet. 3 damage to a target, and if they use that on a Precursor Golem, it'll kill all 3 golems because of the way that that card works. So I don't really want to run into that. However, now we know they were definitely stuck off of a color of mana. They are in blue. Most of blue's removal doesn't matter against Precursor Golem. If they have any bounce spells, that'll be devastating. Wait, no it won't, because I can just recast the Golem. Yeah, no, blue's removal doesn't matter against Golem. They can play the enchantment removal, which only locks down one of them, or they can play a bounce spell to bounce all of them, which would kill the tokens and put the main one in my hand. But then, since the main one's in my hand, I can just recast it and get them all back. So, not bad at all. We'll get into combat here while we have our instant up in case something really weird happens. But I'm assuming we're just going to trade this off for whatever double block they make, or hit them for 5. Those are both reasonable outcomes. And then we'll drop a Precursor Golem, cross our fingers, hope for no Excavation Explosion. But the third path Iconoclast could be a reason that they were not playing any burn spells yet. They were waiting until they could have this so they can get maximum value out of every non-creature spell they cast. Let's hope that that is not the case. They are going to get a tremendous amount of value if they do have an Excavation Explosion here. Because they will get 3 Powerstones. Alright, Curate, Surveil 2, draw a card. So look at the top 2 cards. Where do they want to put them? Both on top. Alright. Not a fan of that. That might mean, yep, they top decked into the Excavation Explosion. That's pretty devastating. This may be the first loss of the draft. It's definitely not over. If I hit a land, Disciples of Gix is a pretty big play, but none of our other Unearth cards are that great on this board state. And this Iconoclast is sort of popping off right now. Actually kind of okay with Warplow for one of these. Might have to Overwhelming Remorse the Iconoclast. I don't love it, but if they play like a really big artifact monstrosity, we can steal and sack it, which is fine. Should always get into the combat first and see if there's any plays we want to make there. Well, they're down to 9. Get rid of that thing. Okay, that's kind of rough, but I can just sack it to the Strongbow to unearth it, so it's not that bad that it's locked down on board, because I can save it from being locked down. Okay, well that is really bad. And they can use the Power Stones to pay for that. They can also use the Power Stones with the Strongbow. Yeah, doubling up on the removal feels super bad for me. Actually tripling up on removal, they went Excavation Explosion into Subjugation here. Yeah, that's just extra rough. Get 1,000,000 damage in with Strongbow. And they still have chump blockers. Again, the game's not completely over, because they're relatively low on life and Juggernaut does trample. I can't kill them next turn. If I get a few turns longer this game, then I could potentially. 6 life. So if I use Swift Spear, if I Juggernaut and attack, I hit them for 5 and put them to 3 life. And then a Sibling Rivalry is like lethal. If they play a better artifact creature, because I can steal. I'll have the mana to steal a creature, sacrifice it to do damage to them, and then also sacrifice the Power Stone that the Rivalry makes to do another damage to them. So I can definitely Sibling Rivalry them down to 2 life. Or down to 2 life, down to 1 life if they take all the Juggernaut damage this turn. I feel like that's the play. I mean, I could Disciples also. Then if they just hold creatures back, then don't really have a great play the turn after. And what happens if they just attack in with everybody after I Juggernaut? I block there, I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they cast 1 spell, I'm dead. Oh yeah, this feels super bad. I don't really think I have a line to victory. I have multiple routes that would win next turn, but I don't have a great way to survive this turn is the problem. Disciples is the most defensive play I have, I feel. And that might just have to be it. Really does not feel great. We're probably just gonna die here anyway. And then it really didn't matter. That would be kind of comforting. If I just die this turn off of the most defensive play, then it's like, alright, well, whatever I went for wouldn't have mattered anyway. Looks like we're probably dead. Probably should have thrown Disciples onto the Dwarven Forge Chanter. It's a little safer. Okay, well I would have been dead either way. That's overkill anywhere I block. Alright. Fair enough. 3 and 1. Super brutal that we kind of lost because they drew into the Excavation Explosion on Precursor Golem specifically. The fact that they got 3 Power Stones by getting 3 copies of the Excavation Explosion meant that they got that much extra damage with the Strongbow there. That's super brutal. Some bad beats for sure there. This is the first game we've drawn Gix, and we did draw Gix with a 2-drop into Gix turn 3, which could be really good. Unfortunately not on the play. If we were on the play, this would be absolutely incredible, but it's still a very nice hand. But yeah, as you can see on the draw, it's just gotta slow us down just enough that my opponent's playing blockers before us, or attackers before us even. Yeah. Brutal. Yeah, we're just never getting in because we're on the draw. Very momentum-based format, aggro-wise, where it feels like the difference between being on the play and being on the draw is astronomical again. Definitely some formats like this, for sure. I don't even know what I do now. It's already on the back foot, and Gix doesn't get to do its thing. Guess I just play a 2-3, they can't really get in with Engineer anymore, and I just trade my 2-1 into the 3-1, but do they still get a 1-1 body off of that exchange? Wow, and they're just curving out with combat tricks here. +2/+0 first strike trample, or hexproof indestructible. Hexproof indestructible would be pretty bad here. Yeah, +2/+0 first strike trample, that one certainly works. Alright. Didn't have another creature to play after that, at least. We had 2 mana 3/1. I'm only taking 3 damage on board, so I'm actually going to Caress here. Just take the 3 on board. And they're out of cards. Alright. They are just playing off the top now. Ooh, let's go. Alright. When I'm playing off the top, we've got... Oh, I can't use that Powerstone. Oops. Well, this is significantly worse than just playing the Rager, although I might just take that damage. Take another damage to draw a card. Yikes. Alright, luckily our opponent has the opposite problem. They're flooding a little bit. They don't have removal for Precursor Golem. That is absolutely massive. Alright, this card can very much be giving us the time we need to stabilize. We've got a lot more cards than our opponent. We just need the time to deploy them. Get them on the board, get blocking. Cool stuff, cool stuff. They have no way to use a Powerstone token right now, so giving us both one feels pretty beneficial to me. Bitter Reunion, but I have nothing I want to discard right now. I'll just start sending in 3/3s, right? That way when they do finally top deck an instant or sorcery, it's less impactful. I still have 3 blockers up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might want to only attack with 2 of them. But yeah, start cashing in the 3/3s to trade 1-for-1 until they draw into their instants and sorceries. That way, whenever they do, they don't get to kill all 3 3/3s off of one spell. That is big. That's a juggernaut. I don't have any sacrifice cards on board. Which is a little awkward. Maybe I should have just played Acrobat earlier. 5/3 trample. Pretty big deal. Still can't sacrifice it, so no massive reason to sibling rivalry it or anything. Probably just gonna set up a multi-block, just block it with 2 3/3s, which means I'm not really attacking in this turn because I'm using the 3/3s to block. Alright, no combat trick off the top, please. Looks like there was no combat trick off the top. Send the kill zone acrobat, I guess. Send the 3/3 still. I don't have to keep drawing cards off of Gix, but unless I'm at 1 life, it's pretty much always correct to do so. I don't really want to not hold up this figure in case my opponent has some weird way to give something flying or something like that. Playing it a little slow here. Alright, unearth that. Unearth the trampler. Might have to actually disfigure the trampler now that I think of it. Lower that damage here. Okay, they're not bringing back the trampler yet. Alright, no combat trick, please. Thank you. Unleash Shell. That is quite good. Okay, I'm going to stop drawing cards now because that's a lot of trampling damage. Just sending in the acrobat and playing a blocker like a juggernaut and holding up this figure seems reasonable. Let's cast this pre-combat so I can sacrifice a tapped Powerstone here instead, unlike last turn. Missed out on some value there. Again, it's probably correct to still be drawing cards right now, but I'm scared. Thopter Architect. When artifacts enter the battlefield under their control, something gets flying till end of turn. That is horrific. I do have a couple reach creatures, but yeah, that's gonna force a block that's much worse than what I would have wanted. I could disfigure to make it fine. I think I do that. Alright, they're gonna scoop them up here. We were definitely going to either steal the Thopter Architect or blow it up with Unleash Shell there, because that card is dangerous to let them keep. But yeah, probably had it unlocked there quite a bit ahead in card advantage thanks to Gix. Still got there in the end. Was definitely pretty scared at the start. Opponent had the aggressive start. We weren't going to be able to get in with that Gix damage anytime soon, but good stabilization, really good work done by the Gix's Embrace, letting us know perfect information of their hand and discard their only non-land card they had at the time. That was a big turning point for us. Gix's Caress is the name, not Gix's Embrace. Am I on the play here? No. Okay, good. I might draw Mountain turn 1 then. That would be pretty sick. Our opponent's gonna cha-cha real smooth. We didn't draw Mountain. It's okay, we've got a 2-drop, a 3-drop, a 4-drop. Stuff to play every other turn this game. I don't like our Argothian Sprite. That card is gonna be very rude. Warplow's okay in this matchup. Right, they're on a green deck, so they probably play another big creature later that this can actually block. The Argothian Sprite can't be blocked by artifact creatures. So that is, that's the problem there. But I'm gonna go Warplow first because I might get to the point where I have something I'm actually pretty chill with discarding to the mutt, but I don't really want to discard Rager, I just want to hardcast it turn 4. Alright, here we go. Kind of playing the long game here, awkwardly enough. Sort of just happens. Most decks in this format have ended up being pretty aggressive, pretty low to the ground. They play a 2-drop creature, 3-drop creature, and it's like, alright, they're in the aggro position. So we kind of just have to play defensive here. Gaia's Might or Gaia's Blessing or whatever would be bad for me, but looks like it is all just going to trade. I'm going to Boulder Branch Golem, just a 3/3 on board. Pretty okay with that. We draw into a Gix. That's interesting. Not really good on an empty board. Opponent's stuck on 3 mana though. That explains the Boulder Branch Golem. Well, they can't really attack us if I just put a Gix down. Right, if they don't have a follow-up creature to play, they can't really just jam us for 3 damage, because then we just crack back and draw a card. Kind of wanted to Gix's Caress as well, but I think we're going to wait on that. Our opponent is stuck on mana. They're going to have great plays for several turns that we can rip out of their hand. They're not going to somehow dump all 5 cards out in 1 turn. Alright, makes sense. Overwhelming Remorse on the Gix. Fair enough. This figure not... Oops. Not very good here. Yeah, let's just see what they're working with. 10/10 Rust Goliath. Well... This kind of sucks. They are gonna have action no matter what. And Disfigure is going to do nothing in this matchup. Because I just take the Recluse, because if they hit just 1 land, they get there, but they can also prototype the 3/5 out. This is super rough. I guess I hit Rust Goliath because Disfigure is actually reasonable on the 2/3 Death Toucher because I turn it into a 0/1, so it doesn't Death Touch anything that turn. We just kill it on blocks or attacks. But I'm not in love with my position here. It's definitely not like over. But yeah, I was gonna say if they hit a land, it's not looking good. And they did hit a land. Oh, there's our red source. That's helpful. I do have the mana to play Rager and Mutts, but then I can't hold up this figure. I definitely want to play Rager. I could play Rager, Swift Spear, and hold up this figure. I think that's the play. We know they have a Moment of Defiance to use though, which is awkward. Yeah, that's super bad. So +2/+1. 5/4 lifelink, -2/-2, 3/2 lifelink. They only kill one of these two. If I double block Recluse, they're just going to kill Recluse. Or if I single block it, they can just moment in response to my Disfigure, so I can't actually use Disfigure on Recluse like I was thinking as a play. Ooh, they killed the Unearth card, I'll take it. I actually want a Scrapwork Mutt because I could afford whatever I draw into more easily this way. Alright, I guess that's a thing. Already just double block Recluse with these two. That's probably where we're at. Let's get a Rager. Ooh, Mishra's Juggernaut, that's a sweet one. So we kind of have to double block Recluse here and hope they don't have a combat trick. If they don't, then both of our creatures die, the Recluse dies, and they put our Scrapwork Mutt on the bottom of our library so we can't unearth it. It's just kind of been an awkward game overall. Our creatures have just lined up pretty awkwardly for trying to do anything aggressive. Just fell pretty far behind against this deck on the play. Opponent is in the think tank. They are thinking for a long time, so they've got options, and I'm not into that. I'd like their hand to just be 3 lands. That'd be beautiful, but that's impossible because they've been mana screwed a lot early in the game. Oh my god, it's one of the most devastating rares in the set. Yep, then we can't do anything. I might as well scoop right now. Yeah, I mean, they're at 24, and now they have another Boulder Branch Golem in their hand. As soon as they hit one more land, they get a 6/5 and gain 6. A 10/10 for later. I'm out. Here we are in round 7. We are 4-2 so far, and our mana's being an absolute jerk face again. I'm going to mulligan this one. Don't have anything castable in that hand. This is reasonable. Keep it, get rid of the 5-drop most likely. Chromatic Star doesn't do much, but I mean, it just cycles into our next play. Yeah, it seems pretty reasonable to just drop the 5-mana card out of the hand. On the draw again. I think we have lost every game that we were on the draw and won every game we were on the play. No, we won at least one game on the draw. Against the red-white deck, they just ran out of gas. So if I don't draw removal for this immediately, I'm dead. It's going to be an unblockable 3/2 next turn. The turn after that, it's going to be an unblockable 5/4. Yeah, no, if I don't draw removal for that immediately, I'm dead. Alright. Let's draw that removal, shall we? I do have a double red card. I have a double black card as well, but the double black card is not removal. I've got Chromatic Star, so I don't need to think about it that hard. Alright, well. Disciples is not removal. Gix's Caress with Chromatic Star is going to be pretty great here. Ramps us up, because we get to use the Powerstone to get the mana out of the Chromatic Star. So that's pretty cool. However, again, this one card just single-handedly outraces me casting many spells here. Oh, I feel very lucky that's the play. However, this is another kind of card you need to just kill on sight where you're dead. Still have no removal here. It's going to make it harder for us to get in and try to outrace them, so that's not the plan. We have to be just 100% all in on draw removal. Oh, yikes. It's all non-creature spells to trigger the Iconoclast. They only have one blue source, though, which is really nice. That means they can't use the Surge card anytime they're trying to use the third path Iconoclast. I don't even know what I take here. Probably like Stern Lesson, because they can use that to hit the next blue source or something. Like if I get rid of the Stern Lesson, if I just draw into like 2 removal spells, I'm in this game. If I can draw into like Disfigure, Excavation Explosion. Got 4 removal spells at least in this deck. I should have attacked with Mutt. I guess Mutt is stopping Iconoclast from attacking, so it's sort of gaining me life. It's not really worth it, though. I'm actually going to play the, no. I don't know. I'm going to play the Acrobat here. Like, if they attack with Iconoclast, I'll just block it. And this way, if I draw my Active Treason, I can kill either one. I'm probably still just going to kill Surge Engine, which is why I think playing Strongbow actually would have been fine. But now I have the option of stealing either. Alright, yep, this is really bad. It's a 5/4 unblockable. Bitter Reunion, that is not removal, but it can draw the removal, so goodbye Disciples of Gix. These are not it either. I would probably have to play Mutt. Trying to outrace opponent, probably Swift Spear and Mutt, and we discard Strongbow here. Probably. Gotta race like nobody's business. Use the star at this point, just draw a card. Should have done it for black in case I hit a 2-mana black card, but that is not that. Everybody haste here. As good as it gets. This is what I got. So they just throw a Weak Stone Subjugation on one of our creatures and they're winning this game pretty handily. They Kraken for 7 so that they can deal lethal next turn. They have a 1/1 blocker. Oh yeah, they can use the cooldown, get 2 of them here. Fair enough. Yep, that's not gonna do it. Dead to a Surge Engine. Rough stuff. Well, as you can see today, pretty good primer on the format again. Very good example of how this format plays out in draft. Expect some incredibly aggressive stuff and some incredibly bomby bombs. That is what we were playing and what we were playing against. So again, Precursor Golem and Gix Yawgmoth Praetor bombed some of our opponents out of the game. They didn't really have much of a chance in some of those matchups where we got those cards. Just showing off the bomb potential in the format. And our other victories also just aggroing people out of the game, removing everything they played while we just chipped in with our small creatures until they died. And that's also primarily how we lost, was to some big bombs and some very aggressive curves. So pretty good examples of how the format plays out today. Not the most fun, not what I'd hoped the format would be, but it's still pretty cool. There's still a lot of fun stuff going on in the format, and I'm still excited to play it for some time to come. But that is going to end today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this draft as much as I enjoyed playing it, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.